Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. My name is Star and today will actually be a different video. Yes, this is a school project video first of all, so ooh, pretty cool. So if you ever see me looking off to the side in this sort of direction or so, please know I wrote a script for this video for once and I'm not just winging it because this is a school video and I do plan to keep things semi-professional. So yeah, both the links for everything talked about in this video will be in the description, along with the script itself. But just so you guys know, I'm not reading everything perfectly off the script. This is me essentially using the script as a helpful guide to be able to tell you about this topic. So yes, I have the script set up so I can read it if I ever lose track of what I'm saying. So yeah. But, as you heard, this is a school project, so I will try to keep things professional. There obviously will be some goofy edits like I normally do, but that is also just to help lighten the mood of this very serious topic. If you did not see it in the description, or the thumbnail, or the title of the video, how? like legitimately, how did you not see it? This is a video. Ooh, you know, I'm holding this now so it's a bit easier for me to look at the script, and yeah, so please know I am a bit forgetful, so that is another reason why this is here. So anyways, without a further ado, let's get into the video. So what's this video about? This video is a project for my English 2 class.
Oh my god!
I mean, obviously this is all for fun, so yeah, I'm gonna try to edit and hopefully this will be good. Please, anybody watching this, feel free to fact check me in the comment section below. Help make some of my points a bit clearer. Other stuff is that, because I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, that's essentially what I'm gonna do. So this is a very serious topic, like I've said before. It is about DID or MPD. Whether you're discussing about how it was called back in the day or now. That is Dissociative Identity Disorder or Multiple Personalities Disorder. And that's what this project is on, is going over everything about it, helping clear up some confusion around it, and just overall helping people learn about it and such. Multiple Personality Disorder or Dissociative Identity Disorder, based on who you ask. Yeah, people call it either one. First of all, let's start with, what is it? What is dissociative identity disorder? So DID is, and like I said before, please feel free to fact check me on all of my info, or just the info that you feel might not be accurate. Please feel free to fact check me in the comments, because I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate it. So, yeah. But from what I saw looking up define DID disorder on Google, I found that typically people who have multiple personality disorder have, obviously as the name implies, multiple personalities that go under the names of alters. I put it in quotes because that is what it is called. They are alters, aka, you know, alternates. That's the long and short of it. The music in the background will also be in the description as well, for those of you who wish to see it. But here are some things that talk about DID, and from what I've researched, they seem to be the closest in both relevance and portrayal of dissociative identity disorder. So the first one would be the show / comics / books, based upon what you're looking at, is Moon Knight. If you have not seen it, it is a Disney Plus show about a hero who, by day, is just a normal man, works at his job, and by night is a crime-fighting superhero. But if you have not seen it, spoiler alert for that right now, incoming, because I've watched the whole thing with my dad. And that show is, he doesn't know it, he has DID. He does figure it out near the end of the show and whatnot throughout the whole thing. But what happens in the show is, when he goes to bed, he switches from being a guy known as Mark Spector. I believe I don't quite remember the names because it's been a while. But Mark Spector is the guy who is the superhero, per se. Obviously, the show takes some creative liberties because it is a Marvel TV show, but he takes control of the body. They are able to freely communicate with one another in the show, and eventually they come to a conclusion that it is DID, and that he has suppressed trauma that he does not know about. And throughout the entire show, they work together to be able to stop, essentially, the Egyptian gods from taking over the world. And so, throughout the show, pay attention mainly to the main character, because he'll remember things, he'll forget things, he doesn't know about his past, or at least the truth about his past, that is, because he's covered it up. Or rather, Mark Spector has covered it up. He has taken the blunt force of the trauma. Another one, please know that these last three examples I'm giving, I do not know much about. I have heard of these and seen them come up a lot, as in showing DID. So the next one is Fight Club, which, if you haven't seen it, is a movie and I believe a book. If it is a book, it will obviously be on screen right now to show us an example. In the movie Fight Club, I'm just going to briefly go over it since I do not quite fully know about it. I've only heard of it and seen clips of it and such. But it is this guy, please know I don't know the name, so it's this guy, and he figures out there's an underground fight club happening, and he gets recruited by this other guy, and while they're like in the fight club, they're doing stuff, beating up stuff. Near the ends of the movie and such, he realizes that he is that guy as well without knowing it, because he asks this girl, this is from a clip I've seen, he asks this girl what his name is, and she tells him the name of the guy who got him into the fight club. And he's a bit confused because, well, clearly he's not that guy, you know, because, well, that guy got him into the fight club. It couldn't have been him. But then you realize that it was him the whole time. It was him. So that's where the big question comes up for him, is what is going on? So it is heavily implied that it is indeed DID. So the next one is Sybil, which is both a book and a movie, and it's based upon true events.
Oh, baby,
it is about a teacher, I don't remember quite where, but it is a teacher who has DID, and she suffers doing her job. Well, one day, I don't quite remember, because I looked this up a bit ago, but she snaps at a student, I believe, and it is very apparent that she's not mentally well. So she goes to a psychologist who diagnoses her with DID, and the movie is just about her story and how she is trying to live a life with DID. And the next one is a TV show called The United States of Terra. So this one is essentially the same thing. Woman finds out that she has DID, and she knows it. Well, throughout the show, she has a husband, like 2 kids, I believe, and the whole show is just her essentially, you know, living life with DID, and she is trying to figure out her life and how everything goes on, and just everything in general. So that is what that is. That's just the gist of it. And yeah, so here's the next thing. Sources. So before I say anything, like I have before, there will obviously be a Google Doc in the description with my sources, and that will be also have the script as a Google Doc, and the Google Slides document as a, you know, proof as well. So here's the websites I got it from. Were Gale Power Search. Mind you, you're not going to be able to access it. That is a school district search tool you're able to use. So whatever was in that is also on my sources. When there's the links on there, I also provide the entire document copied and pasted onto there, so you can read that on there if you want to fact check me as well. So there's that. And then for like the last 3 sources, I use DIDR, Dissociative Identity Disorder Research, which is, yes, a website. So yeah, those are going to be there. But without further ado, let's just jump right into talking about DID. Different DID alter types. There are different types of alters out there that take different forms and so on. So to be more specific, there are 8 different types of alters, or rather 8 ones that I found, that are the main alter types. So we're going to be talking about those individually to give you more of a better grasp about them. So the first one is called the core. Now, from what I saw, this one is purely theoretical. There is proof of it, yes, but there is not enough proof to say that it is specifically always going to be in DID. It's just a theory. A game. No, I'm playing. So here's what it means. It essentially just the person born into the body. So think of John Doe, right? There's a guy named John Doe, and that's his birth name, and he was born as John Doe, and it's his body. He was born that way. That's his birth name. He's the person who was born into the body. He's not an alter, per se. I put it in quotes because he could be an alter, but he is the person that was born into the body. It is his body, his property. When you think about cores, think of the person who was born into the body, like their birth name. They may have changed their name throughout the years, and it would still change with that name, so that would be the core, is the person in charge. So the next one would be the host. It is sort of the same thing, but it is the alter that fronts the most. Fronts means more of the person who is in control of the body most of the time, which a host can change. So if someone is in charge of the body for 3 years per se, and then another alter takes control of the body for a bit of time and it ends up being 4 years, the person who is in charge of the 3 years before they were in charge of the 4 years, the other person, the person with 3 years would be the host. But since the person with 4 years has spent more time being in charge of the body, they're the new host. So it's the person who is in charge the most time. And now the next one's sort of self-explanatory per se. It is protector. The protector is, well, an alter that protects the body. Essentially, like, you know, shielding him. I mean, to be completely honest, that's about it. I said it was self-explanatory, so I mean, what more do you want from me? But they might take like emotional abuse or comfort other alters, and there's a subcategory of the protectors known as the caretakers. They're specifically focused on protecting more of the younger or weaker alters, or alter groups specifically, more of just a protective shield, if you will, defending themselves and others and defending the body. So then there's this other alter called the persecutor, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, but to me that name both sounds badass but also menacing. I take it as both ways, because the persecutor sounds scary because, well, persecutor essentially just means the person killing, you know? Like, think of olden days or in movies and whatnot. The persecutor is the guy wearing the big black mask who's holding the axe and decapitating people, you know? Very foreboding. So, yeah, kind of spooky. So, to be honest, this alter, it kind of is foreboding in a way. So, take that with a grain of salt, please. It's an alter that harms itself or other alters and or the host of the body as its way of coping. Think of, easiest example I could think of someone who in real life would act like a persecutor would be a bully, for example. They're hurting a lot, and they take out their pain by hurting others. So they're in pain, and they hurt you by bullying you. That's how they get their pain out. So that's essentially what that would be, in a way, if that makes sense to you. So that's what that means. And I mean, it's them just essentially protecting the others in a way. So if they get abused in the future, whether that be physically or mentally or emotionally, then it doesn't hurt as bad as their abuse before. It's a coping mechanism, if you like to think of it that way. And then there's another one called introjects. And I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I was typing this into the script and it kept auto correcting to to introverts. Like 7 different times to introverts. I wish I was joking. I genuinely do. But it kept changing to introverts. And no, it's not, oh my god, I'm so shy. No. Introject is something completely different, but very interesting. It is an alter that resembles, or is based off of, a real person. As example, there's a dude named Franklin, right? And he has an introject alter in his body. And that's Benjamin Franklin. You know? Benjamin Franklin was, yes, a real person, but he's not an alter. So, that alter would be an introject, aka, think of, the only way I can think of it that I didn't put in the script, and like, that I just now thought of, was, if you butt into a conversation, you're introjecting your way in, essentially. You know? You're just pushing your way through. And yeah, so an introject to me seems like kind of a button, like a part of the real world that butts in to the mental. You know, if that makes sense. It essentially just jumps into the mental reality of the person. So that's what an introject, I feel like, feels like. And then there's another one that I gave an example for. So there's little Timmy, and his alter is his dead father. So, introjects can be both alive people or dead people. Like, there can even be another example. Johnny has an alter that acts like his grandpa, right? His grandpa's still alive. You get the gist, right? No. What do you mean, no? How about you shut the f***? There's more, like, there's more alters. We're almost done. Stick with me on this, guys, please. There's memory holders, and take a wild guess. What do you think they do? What do you mean, I don't know? No, they hold memories. How the hell do you not know that? Okay, whatever. But in all seriousness, they're the alters that hold traumatic memories. So, I think the best example of this would... Yes, I'm going back to Moon Knight. Don't roast me in the comments. Don't try to kill me. Okay, Moon Knight is a good example for me because I watched the entire show and it's a bit easier for me to give examples. That's why. So, think of Mark Spector from, you know, Marvel's Moon Knight. He's otherwise known as Moon Knight on the show. And yes, there are different Moon Knights per se on the show. There's Moon Knight, and there's also one of his alters is Mr. Knight. We're not even going to go into that realm of logic. It's just... it's complicated a bit, you know? Maybe I'll make like a Moon Knight lore video if you guys want that. Just, I don't know, tell me in the description or whatever. But Mark Spector is the closest like example that I've seen to a memory alter that I can think of. You know, as I said before, it's the easiest way for me to describe it. So, that's that. There's another alter. This one is called the Gatekeeper. Ooh, gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, slay! You know, it's a gatekeeper. An alter that, this is an alter that typically controls switching, holds control over the inside, like, world of that person's mind. They typically see everything that is happening. They help moderate things that are going on, whether that be physical, mental, emotional. Essentially, they help control things. They're the control center. You know, that, if that makes sense. There's another one called the Internal Self-Helper. This one's pretty self-explanatory as well. They help everyone in there try to feel better. You know, that makes sense, does it not? I mean, you know, it just, they're helping. And then there's another one that is, the last one, mind you, Fragment! Now, I don't know why every time writing the script and thinking about it now, all I can think of is Fraggle Rock, because all I hear is frag before I even hear fragment, and all I can think of are those goofy little puppets dancing around. I've never watched the show. I have only seen clips of it from my dad and seen the front box cover, but all I can think of is Fraggle Rock now. So, thank you, brain. I needed that today. So, the fragment is an alter that is not fully formed, mind you. I mean, the only example I wrote down that I could think of is think of like a baby's memory. when they're born, their mind isn't fully developed yet. And then when they get throughout life, their mind develops more and more and more. So this is essentially just the halfway point between baby and adult. So kind of 12-year-old mind, if you think about what I mean. Their mind isn't fully developed yet. So it's an alter, but the alter isn't fully there yet, per se. So it's still, like, developing in the mind, essentially. And here's the next part of the video. What's switching?
Wait, what is this?
Now, you guys heard me in the earlier section say switching. And you're probably thinking, Star, what the hell are you going on about? You're probably going crazy. No, actually. I mean, yes, but no. The word switching, essentially, if you didn't already know what it means, it's switching. it's essentially meaning you switch personalities, right? A different alter takes control, and that's essentially the gist of it. That's like the best description, to be fair. But I mean, there's 3 different types of, like, switching. There's consensual, there's forced, and then there's trigger. We're gonna we're gonna talk about all 3 of these. Now to talk about the first one is consensual switching. It's a type of switching that occurs when one or multiple alters agrees with other alters to switch being in charge. So one's in charge, and one is like, I want to be in charge now. And they both come to an agreement, and then they switch. The one who wanted to be in charge is now in charge, and the one who wanted to let them be in charge is now not in charge. So, if that makes any sense. The next is forced switching, which I found extremely interesting to me. Is essentially one or multiple alters, like I said before, instead of switching like they choose to, they force their way, as forced means. So it's essentially being like, well, I like being in control of the body right now. And the other one is like, no, I want to be in charge of the body. And so the one in charge is like, no, I don't want you to. And they're like, well, too bad, I'm going to take over anyways. And then boom, they take over. Forced switching, you know? It wasn't an outcome that one of them wanted, but the other did want it. And it happened. So there's that. The next one is triggered switching. So that one is kind of self-explanatory, but you'll hear what I mean. So here it's like, it's switching again, yes, but it's more of you get triggered by something that's an outer force. So the best example I could think of is you have an abusive ex, right? They used to hit you all the time when you guys were dating, but you guys are no longer dating and you guys don't talk anymore. But you guys aren't gonna confront each other in public because you still have those feelings in your mind that they might hit you again because you're still scared, right? Well, say you're walking at the store or whatever, and there they are, there's your ex, and they're walking up to you, and in your mind, you're panicking, you're freaking out, because remember, they hit you, they physically harmed you, they emotionally harmed you, they broke you down and put you back together just to toy with you again. And you can't handle being around them because, well, what if they hurt you again? Well, one of the other alters is like, dude, I can handle this. I've been waiting for this moment, and I am okay being around this person. You may not, but I am fine. And so they're freaking out, and they're like, okay, fine, whatever, go ahead, and boom, that person takes control. That's triggered switching. It was an event that caused a panicked reaction that caused an instantaneous switch. So, one question that might come to mind to people is, how does it form? How does DID even come about into playing into anything, like any aspect of life? Well, the first thing for you to know is that DID, like, is a result of long-term trauma, specifically childhood trauma. Being one good example that they said on there was frequent child abuse or neglect. That is the main example of where it happens. So, this can cause attachment disturbances as well, or come from attachment disturbances. As in, Either you're very clingy to people now and you cannot let go of them, or not having enough, like, physical touch back in the day. Like, your parents didn't hug you enough, or give you a kiss on the forehead, or tell you they loved you. And now, that's all you crave. That's all you need. So if anybody comes around and you're dating them, they can use that to their advantage. They can tell you they love you and that they care for you, and they don't. But you were deprived of that as a child, so you can't see that they did anything wrong. That's where it starts to become a bit of an issue. But DID cannot form after 6 to 9 years of aging.
Nice.
In all seriousness, it's from 6 years old to 9 years old is when it can develop. You don't know about it, and nobody else would know about it if it happened. But from 6 years old to 9 years old, it can happen. You start hearing voices, they start talking to you, and you don't know what's going on. And think of it this way, what were you doing when you were 6 to 9 years old? You were probably in like 2nd or 3rd grade, and you were having the best time of your life. If I'm not mistaken, I was 10 in 3rd or 4th grade. So that's a bit of a scary thought to think about, that when you are over here having a goofy old fun time, that can happen from those things. It's a scary thought, it really is. But what I found was weird is misdiagnosis. So, the strange reason for misdiagnosis. DID has been misdiagnosed for like plenty of times and plenty of different reasons. Obviously being symptoms is one of them, as in, I hear voices and they're like, DID, but for all you know it could be schizophrenia, or any other schizo disorder, because those are different things. Or it could be any other dissociative disorder, because there are other ones as well. It could be literally anything. But with misdiagnosis, the thing I read was quite frightening. So, symptoms are obviously close to other mental illnesses. That's apparent. But if you're misdiagnosed, 1, seek help. I'm gonna find some like emergency numbers for the US, since I live in the US. I'm sorry to others if I could not find any. But emergency services for the US being mental health crises. If I can find those will be in the description. But, because those can cause people to feel depressed, or, the worst case, killing themselves. So, it's a very dangerous thing to be misdiagnosed. So, some doctors out there, though, have misdiagnosed for insanely wild reasons. And the article I read is proof of that. And that is, they misdiagnose people with DID, as having DID, when they don't, for credibility. And when I say credibility, I mean, look at me. I have a patient who has DID. I know so much about it, so I can take care of other people with DID. That sort of mindset. And it's scary what they do to their patients. They give them threats of putting them into a mental asylum because you're crazy, you have to listen to me. That sort of mindset, and it's frightening to think about, that they would use their power as a psychologist to push it onto them and say that they do have this for their own benefit. And what I read were the patients would fake having DID because they're scared that if they say they don't, that they'll go through with it. They'll put them in a mental asylum. And that's a scary thought to most, if not a lot, of the people in the United States, myself included. But that's what people fear. So they fake it, they go along with it, they create fake alters and fake names and this, that, and the other, so then they don't have to go to a mental asylum. And some of them have. They've been put into the psychiatric wards and told that bad things will happen to them if they don't listen. So they do. They fake it, they find a way to get out, And some of them don't get to tell their stories, but some of them do. And that's the scary thing. And to me, that is honestly quite frightening to see. But you gotta hopefully trust the process. But that was all. That was my project on DID. Please let me know what you thought in the comments. So, like I said, links, script, etc. will be in the description below. I thought this was pretty fun, you know. I hope everything is up to par and accurate. If it's not, please feel free to let me know in the comments. And yeah, I can't change anything after posting the video, but I hope that by you guys telling me in the comments, I will learn something new, and hopefully other people watching this will learn something new. If you correct me on something, I will heart the comment, just obviously to show that I saw it. But yeah, hopefully I did pretty accurate. I hope I did. I edited this as well, so I hope it looks at least interesting enough for you to at least watch it a bit. Thank you to whoever stayed throughout this for me, you know. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, afternoon, or whatever it is for you guys. And like always, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!